talking about Duke Scott getting the number one jersey honor for this upcoming season. Coach Doeren put out a comment saying that Duke exhibits an elite work ethic and practice and training habits while also leading his teammates. Doesn't just uphold the standards, he pushes them higher. And I believe as well, and Greg and Ethan, correct me if I'm wrong on this, but I believe from my research that he's the youngest player to ever receive the number one jersey during the Doran era, and to is the first offensive player to get it in 8 years since Stephon Lewis got it back in 2017, 2018.
I think J Sam had it, didn't he?
But that was
J-Sam had it.
before. That was before
He was
Steph, if I'm not
before?
mistaken.
Are you sure?
I'm pretty sure. I could be wrong though. But anyway, it's still
But
it's
yes,
but that
he is
but
like the first like underclassman, if you will, to get this honor.
and either way, it's still the first in probably 8 years, whether it's J
Yeah,
Sam,
yeah, yeah.
Steph, Lewis too as well, in whatever order that may be too as well. Um, yeah, so it started off in 2014, Jarvis Bird, and then Hakeem Jones, then J Sam had it for 2 years, then Stephon Lewis had it for a year, then James Smith Williams, Isaiah Moore had it for 3 years, Davin Van for 2 years, Caden
Ooh.
Fordham, and now Duke Scott. Does that make sense, Greg?
So Isaiah was
Okay.
probably a sophomore then too, right? So then Isaiah was probably a sophomore.
I think he had redshirted. No, Greg, you know what that was? He got an
Oh,
extra
that's
year.
Mm-hmm.
So
Yeah.
I think Duke Scott is a
okay. So then
third-year
he would have.
player, and I think
Yeah.
Isaiah Moore was too when I think Moore was a fourth-year player, but he redshirted and got a 6th year.
Mm. So
Okay.
Greg, what do you think it says about Duke Scott and the fact that it is the first offensive player since Stephon Lewis to wear the number one jersey?
Yeah, it's an honor, right? It's someone that embodies the program, that is a kind of team first guy. Um, when we had Duke on, I guess it would have been his after he graduated, or maybe it would have been his junior year. I can't remember, but we had him on right after he had committed to state, and you could just tell by his maturity at that point that he could, if he stayed the course, could be a prime candidate for this honor, and obviously, that's the case.
Yeah. And Ethan, do you see this at all? Because I know, like, in the fantasy football NFL world, for example, people are always looking for reasons to invest more in a certain player because they believe that a guy maybe might be a bell cow type of player. Does him getting the number one jersey at all kind of make you lean a little bit more of, okay, maybe he's going to see even maybe potentially even more usage than maybe you were expecting before he got the number one jersey?
Well, I was already expecting a pretty big role here. I mean, you have Davion Gauss behind him. I don't know how much, I don't know how much of a factor he'll be. If God is healthy all year, right? I think that's kind of the thing is like, okay, you're expecting a big year for Duke Scott, and like if he stays healthy, it's going to happen. And if he is healthy, what does that mean for Gauss? I don't know. Like if it's, I mean, let's just call it 30 carries a game. If it's
Mhm.
30, is Scott getting 18 to 20 and Gauss is getting 8 and Will Wilson's getting some, CJ Bailey has a couple. I don't know. So I already had pretty big expectations for Duke Scott just because we don't know what's behind him. I mean, again, you have Gauss, right? Like you have that's fine. Um, so does that change it? I don't know. I guess my expectations in terms of role were already pretty big, but it definitely confirms how the staff thinks of him and what sort of player and role model, I guess, to the other players, the example that he sets. Because again, like you look at some of those comparisons, they weren't necessarily the best players on the team, but they were leaders, right? They were big names who were front and center all the time, right? Isaiah Moore, it felt like he was the heartbeat of NC State's program for years. And James Smith Williams, right? Like after you lost all those defensive guys, what happened? It was James Smith Williams, so Caden Fordham, kind of same thing. Not necessarily your best player, but like leaders of the team who you have a ton of responsibility both on the field and off.
Yeah. Yeah, and Greg, obviously with Duke, there's going to be an expectation that when they announce the captains, more than likely, I would be shocked if CJ Bailey is not one of those captains. And I know on last one of the episode that Ethan and I did last week, one of the things we were talking about with CJ Bailey was how going into the season, you don't want CJ to quote unquote lose a game for you, but you do expect him to win some games for you this year. Do you at all feel more confident now that, they are definitely, talking a lot about, Duke Scott and the fact that he is going to wear the number one, presumptively probably going to be a team captain. So again, like, I kind of look at Duke Scott saying, okay, hey, if we add what we saw from him last year, and now you're learning more about him in terms of what he's like off the field by him getting that number one jersey edge, like you got to feel pretty confident in saying, okay, well, hey, I feel like that the expectation from an offensive standpoint between Duke Scott and CJ Bailey is that there's going to be a standard of you guys are more likely going to be able to win us some games this year. And we're going to expect from both of y'all that you're not going to lose games for us either.
Yeah, I think it's
No, go for
it's
it.
a lot of it's both, right? Like you need those guys to carry you, but you also look at the schedule and you're like, okay, I don't know that I see a better quarterback than CJ Bailey on NC State's schedule. Maybe JKS. I'm not even going to try and pronounce his name. Just imagine that I said it well.
Cal's quarterback is what you're
Cal.
saying.
Yeah, Cal.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Mm-hmm.
he's really the only one that you would say, okay, you could see it. Now maybe somebody pops up and has a better than expected year, but you're banking on those guys.
You
You
wouldn't put
are.
Mensa on that list?
Well, they're not playing Mensa. He left. He's at Miami now.
Mhm.
No, but you're just saying in general that on our schedule is what you're saying.
On the schedule. Yeah. In terms
Got
of
you.
the
Sorry.
ACC, for sure. Yeah, in terms of the ACC, I definitely think Mensa's ahead. I'd probably put Mensa at number one in terms of college quarterbacks, but yeah, I mean,
Yeah.
those are the guys that you need. Like you're banking on them. What do you have on the offensive line? I don't like. Do you feel okay about it? I guess. Wide receiver, you don't really know. You feel like you have a good
Right.
idea with CJ Bailey. I mean, you've got 2 full years, right? It's hard to find guys that you've got 2 full years of expectations now, right? And Duke Scott, I mean, we have high expectations for him based off of 2 games.
Mm-hmm.
So there's a lot on those guys' table, right? And maybe somebody else steps up and alleviates some of that. Maybe the defense ends up being better than expected, but yeah, it's going to be a lot on those 2 guys.
And Greg, before I let you come in and give your answer to that question too as well, I want to hear it in the chat too as well. Like I'd kind of already asked this question, but do you think this is more of a prediction about a big season that Doeren thinks that is coming up for Duke Scott, or is this more of a leadership distinction? Just kind of which route do you kind of see this number one jersey being, or both? Let us know too as well if you think this is both. But Greg, yeah. So your answer about just like Ethan saying, going into the season with the offense, you feel extremely confident about 2 things: Duke Scott, CJ Bailey. So what is you think this number one jersey distinction do for Duke Scott, and your feeling about the offense heading into the season?
Yeah, I think this is more of a leadership. I don't think this recognition has ever been about productivity, if you will. I just think that it's the guy that embodies the spirit of what Wolfpack football, one pack, one goal, hard, tough together, all those mantras. Uh, and then if you get the production to go with it, that's just a cherry on top.
Yeah. No, I completely agree. Excited for what's coming for Duke Scott. I mean, a guy that had 196 yards rushing in one game last season, and man, had a crazy big hit highlight I remember seeing in person versus Wake Forest as well. So, and also too, last year got put a number 66 on the freaks list in college football last year too as well. Again, a short, stocky guy that has some ridiculous numbers in the weight room. So excited to see what this guy can do. But also too as well, y'all, if you're new with us, besides putting your answers here in the chat, make sure if you haven't already, make sure to hit that subscribe button too, as well as it's free to do. Really help support the channel, and make sure to hit that like button too as well, so we get this live stream out to as many people here as possible.